Hello, everyone. This is Mickey Moore, your host of Run.Life.Today, bringing you authentic and inspiring conversations with folks that have seemed to have learned the art of running more of life than life running them. But basically, we're talking about their ability to integrate the many lanes of work and life to some degree of success. If you'd like more information about Run.Life.Today, don't forget to visit runlifetoday.org. Watch us, like us, follow us, and subscribe. I am fortunate today to have somebody that maybe a lot of our audience already knows. I certainly known him for quite a few years, but I don't know everything about him. But I want to welcome my good friend, David Yon. Hey, David.
Hey, Mickey, how are you? And thanks for this opportunity to talk to you.
Oh, of course. Thank you. I appreciate you making time. And you're not at the office and you're not on a run, so that means you're making time for me. So David, as you know, watching our previous episodes and everything, we're here today. I want to ask you a lot of good questions and walk you through some of your favorite stories and your commitments across the lanes of your life and work and things that you care about. So for the benefit of the audience, though, I always want to start with some background, right? Talk to us a little bit about where you're from, maybe your upbringing until you got to Florida State University a few years ago, right?
Just a very few.
Yeah, just a few years ago. But so tell us a little bit about your upbringing, David, and family and all that, please.
Well, I was born in Panama City, not too far from here. I was 6 months old when we left Panama City, my family, and never have been back to there as a resident. I've been back to visit, of course. Grew up kind of all over the Southeast, as far west as Waco, Texas, or Waco, Texas, as I like to say. And the furthest place north was Chattanooga, Tennessee. And first time I came to Tallahassee was to attend Florida State. So I graduated my last year of high school from Lakeland Senior High down in the middle of the state, and went to, I guess, 4 different high schools. So made it around a few places growing up.
Okay. What was the impetus, if you don't mind me asking, for all that moving around through your upbringing?
Restless dad, I think, as much as anything. He just had a hard time settling down. He spent some time in the military, like 6 years in the Navy and 14 in the Air Force. So that was part of it too. But a lot of that moving around was after he got out. So.
Yeah. And what about your family? Any siblings or?
I have 5 brothers and sisters. I have 2 brothers and 3 sisters. A brother and a sister live here in town. I have one that's in North Carolina now, a sister, and I have a brother and a sister up in Chicago. So I kind of got the eastern half of the U.S. covered anyway.
So were you youngest, in the middle, the oldest?
I'm the oldest.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, you were the smartest and best at all of them then, right?
Nope.
So through those 4 different high schools, tell me a little bit about high school, David. What were you like? Were you the studious? Were you the science? Were you the athletic, or a little bit of everything?
Probably a little bit of everything. Going to 4 different high schools, about the time you get settled, you're moving to another one. So I played football all the way through high school, but for a couple of reasons, didn't get to play many other sports. But had got through it.
Yeah. Did you work during high school?
I did. Had one of the first jobs I ever had was mowing lawns, of course, but you get past that. I had a paper route at one point in time, and then I also had a job in printing newspapers, I guess, so it's in Chattanooga.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Chattanooga. You just mentioned, I hear there's a a great Ironman event in Chattanooga every year.
There wasn't when I was there, though.
Yeah, right. So your high school mascot down in Lakeland in Polk County was the Hornets, right?
No, the Dreadnaughts.
Oh, okay. So maybe where did I get the Hornets from? I guess maybe that was it used to be maybe
Would
their
be.
mascot. Okay. So
There's
the
another high school there, the Kathleen High. I
okay.
don't, it's possible they were the Hornets. I don't know.
So I have some good friends from college that are in Polk County, and I've been fortunate to meet some of the Badcock family in Mulberry as well. So my last question: when you were at Lakeland High School, how do you end up choosing Tallahassee to go to college, FSU?
Good question. Probably somehow I just always kind of liked FSU. It was a state school, so tuition was uh, very affordable back then, and I could pay for it that way. So I'm not really sure what the deciding factor was. I remember listening on laying on the floor, listening to the radio to hear some football games back in those days. But I don't know. Anyway, I wound up Florida State. So
Okay. So, and look, there doesn't have to be a right answer as
sure.
long as you didn't end up in Gainesville.
Well, I
So,
actually did live for a short period of time in Gainesville, but
right,
it was probably the fourth or fifth grade, somewhere.
right. No offense to my friends, obviously, that are blue and orange fans, but
Yeah.
just wanted to put that out there. So, so David, thank you for a little bit of that background. Bringing us up to kind of when you started your secondary education, right? Your graduate education and those things. So at FSU, you're here in Tallahassee, and this is back in, I guess, what is that, 80s?
77 was
Okay, so late 70s, early 80s. Okay.
yeah.
Um, when
Last
you,
year high school was 74, I guess.
okay. So your FSU experience, tell us a little bit about what you decided to study and why. Eventually you became an attorney, but I love understanding how people found that path or decided on that.
I think I was looking for something that I don't know that would. I'm not sure how to explain it, but something that well, I did practicing law had an attraction to me, and it seemed like something that was an opportunity that you could control to some degree. And again, I felt like there was an opportunity to get into Florida State Law School. So my degree was political science, which would be similar in some cases to a government degree, but it was designed, after by the end of the first year, it seemed like that was a good way of, being able to get through school, and then it seemed like a good path to get to law school, something I could accomplish.
Okay. And the campus then a little different than it is now, right?
Very different, yeah.
Were you on campus or off campus?
I was on campus my first 3 years till I went to law school. So
Okay.
one of the dorms, it's now been torn down. So Magnolia High.
Oh, okay.
Building, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if that was, I was here at FSU in the 90s. I don't know if it was there then. Maybe
It
they
might have been gone by then,
yeah. I do remember the old Florida High was there,
yeah.
that was fun. We got, we jumped the fences and played basketball and played the baseball field and all that stuff in between classes. So FSU law, you wrapped up there about what year?
1980.
1980. Okay, so now we're off and running. Then I want to kind of shift lanes to official career lane, right? And obviously you've been in the working field for a while, and you've done some amazing things. I've stalked you. I mean, researched you on LinkedIn, and of course the law firm's bio that they have for you. But share for our audience just a few of those career highlights and jumps that you've had since you joined the workforce as an attorney in Florida.
Well, the first job opportunity I had while in law school, I looked for a law firm to clerk at or intern at. And the first group to say yes was the Florida, well, it was called the Department of Insurance at the time. So I went to work for that state agency. And as I got closer and closer to graduation, it was a place that said yes when I asked for a permanent job. So I wound up spending my first 6 or 7 years working there at the Florida Department of Insurance, and really enjoyed it, liked it. I liked what I did. It was challenging mentally, but you felt like you were doing some good work. So it was a good opportunity, and it helped lay a good firm basis for my for the future, for my career. And eventually, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Was that, let's see, your work, would it be around regulations, statutory things, or compliance?
Primarily, yeah, insurance regulatory work. We had fire marshal stuff under the treasurer, insurance commissioner at that time, treasury stuff, but primarily I was in insurance area with respect to insurance companies and making compliance issues and regulatory issues.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So then from Department of Insurance, what was the next leap?
I went to a firm, was a statewide firm at the time, and the name of it slips me right now, but within 6 months of the time I joined that firm, they left, became just a Tallahassee firm, and it was Catch Cutter and other names. And I was there for and so what I did basically was move out and represent the entities that were in the same field, mostly insurance companies at that time, and enjoyed that, but eventually decided to make a move from there. A number of us that were with that firm wanted to take a different approach, and so we opened up the Rady Law Firm, and I've been there since.
Well, around when was that transition from Katz to your own Rady Law Firm?
2003, I think.
Okay. So you put a substantial number of years in Katz Cutter, and
yeah.
I know, gosh, I used to work downtown, back in my banking days, and that was early 2000s. I met Mitch Hagler.
Yeah.
And I think he was one of the original partners, I think, of Katz Cutter.
He was.
Whatever else you call it. And I know we had some interesting conversations around mergers and acquisitions and, that kind of stuff, I guess, that he used to be involved with around insurance to some degree.
Yeah.
But I just remember that law firm was downtown in the whatever building.
High Point.
That's right. Yep. So shift then to Rady, and so since 2003, you've been there, and tell us a little bit about, that your areas of focus, your typical routine because you are a shareholder, right, in the firm. So tell us a little bit about that.
I was, I guess, one of the founding folks in that process. That was a challenge to step outside of what was previously a comfortable position and try to start something new. But we were successful. We had 10 or 11 really good people. I've enjoyed being there. It's mostly insurance regulatory work that I've done. I've done a little bit of healthcare stuff, but and a few other things like that, but mostly it's been insurance regulatory work. And I've been I was one of the original shareholders, and but I did about a year ago now change my status from a shareholder of Counsel, and that's just with the idea that if I want to work a little bit less, that's okay. I don't have to worry about it. So So
Yeah.
it's been a great place, a lot of good people there, and I like the community mindedness that's there. I've always tried to be active in various community things, and
Yeah.
so,
I know you guys have always been, in the community, and whenever you hang your own shingle, if you will. I know that's a term in the legal
yeah.
world and others that you use a lot when you go out and open your own business. You referenced surface level. There were challenges stepping out from having a job and working for somebody else and then starting something. What comes to mind? What are those couple of real challenges you had early on starting your own firm?
Well, you want to try to get paid, which which means you have to send somebody a bill for some work you did. So, no, I think the main thing is just trying to look and reach out and find some way to build your practice and really kind of focus on that. How do you get the word of what you're doing, where you are? And, with lawyers, the soliciting side of things is, limited in a lot of ways by the Florida bar and the rules of the Florida bar.
Mhm.
So it's makes it challenging, makes it a little scary, but
Mhm.
we had confidence, and it's worked out.
Yeah, I imagine, business development, right, is
Yeah,
different for different
yeah,
industries. And in the legal world, it's just, you got to play by, different rules sometimes, right?
yeah.
A little more strict. So then today in the firm, you're of counsel.
Mhm.
So, obviously you're still doing things when they need you, but it's
Sure.
not that 9 to 5, got to go in the office and, be there
Right.
for everybody to see and all that. But, so is this kind of what you'll be doing for another, year or two or 5 or 10, or do you see, of counsel maybe going away anytime soon? What do you think?
I'm not sure. Just gonna kind of let that play out a little bit and see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Um, I've put in my fair share of work hours over my life, and if I put in more that are designed around having fun than working, that's probably okay.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I mean, again, congratulations, because I know you have put in a lot of time and well respected in your field, of course, and whatever Martindale Hubble rating you've been able to keep over the years, but it's so much more than that. And that's really now what I want to shift to, because obviously you're still working and you're doing things there. And now I want to shift to another lane where I know you spend some ample time. So let's start with community involvement, and then we'll get to maybe the fitness lane, and then we'll talk about some other things, because you're a columnist. You like to travel. You got other hobbies too I want to get into, but let's talk a little bit about community involvement that you have either recently, in the past, today, tomorrow, as a family, as an individual. Where do you spend a good chunk of time in the community involvement lane?
Um, Good question. It's hard to with the running club, Gulf Winds, and things we do there. It's been a big chunk of time. I had the pleasure of working more closely this last year with the youth Smurf running group, and that was been a lot of fun. Probably had more time to put into that this year than I ever had, and it's been a fun project.
Okay.
We each year for quite a few now, I guess, Mary Jean and I have directed the Tallahassee Turkey Trot, and that's opened some doors for us with places like the Boys and Girls Club, because they benefit from the race, and the Refuge House and the shelter, or the Kearney Center now. So we've had some dealings with all of those entities as well. Um,
I
that's
know, and I know you're obviously being humble a little bit as to how much time you actually spend. So I'm going to share a little more, for the audience's knowledge. Obviously, you've been a board member on Gulf Winds Track Club for how many years now? Can you guess?
10 or 15. I don't.
Yeah. And again, it's not just a member. I mean, you've been an officer. You've done about everything probably there is to do for the club and for the members. And, that's a lot of commitment, a lot of work. But then within the club itself, like you mentioned, the Smurf program, for the kids during the summers and turkey trot. I mean, that's only, I don't know what, 3 or 4,000 people that come to that event every year. I mean, over the holiday, and there's 3 races. But again, it's the year-round commitment. I know that race requires more than just, a couple weeks preparation. You're talking about, you're coordinating with a lot of people in this town, a lot of, like, the hospital. I know they support the race, and, making sure that all that comes together. So I appreciate what you do for Gulf Winds, and then how that spreads through the rest of the community, with support for, you mentioned 3 other nonprofits right there: Refuge House, Boys and Girls Club, and the Carney Center, right? So
Yeah.
how the race now, turkey trot, on a regular year, let's say pre-COVID, right, generates approximately how much revenue each year, the turkey trot?
Total revenue?
Yeah, it raises about how much each year typically?
Well, we give away about, for the last couple of years, not last year was down, but before that, we probably raised about 45 for those 3 entities. And then, Gulf Winds keeps a share of that as well. So probably, I don't know, I've got numbers written down somewhere, but in the 50 to 60 range.
Nice. Wow, that's awesome. And I guess when you mentioned the other 3 nonprofits that it supports, so for you and Mary Jean, are those the causes that y'all like to be involved in? Is it youth? Is it education? Is it mentoring? What are those causes that are close to you and her when it comes to deciding where to put your time and energy?
The Boys and Girls Club came about in part just I had a good friend who was involved with that, who kind of drug us over there a little bit. And next thing you know, get pretty involved with them. I like the work they do with the kids. I like the way it impacts their lives. And a lot of those kids don't have any place to go if not for the Boys and Girls Club in their areas. We started with a Kearney Center. It was a shelter downtown, and it's gone through a lot of changes since then. But we had a friend who was very involved in that, and somehow or another just got pulled in that direction. And it's like I said, it's changed a lot and there's a lot more that they can do now that they could do in the past. But and Refuge House is there was one year when gosh, at least 20 years ago, I guess, we had a guest come in to speak as part of Turkey Trot. Connie Mae Fowler was her name, and she'd been subject to a lot of abuse a number of times, and had written a couple of books that really kind of laid that out. And so that we got caught up with Refuge House that way. So yeah, that's
nice. And are there any other, so from a civic or professional, there could be volunteer opportunities there for, the Florida Bar or other places, Junior League, and any other things that you've spent some time in or do spend some time in on that side of it?
Well, every Monday we deliver meals for Meals on Wheels, which has been a very unique but very rewarding experience. It's there's a lot of lonely people out there, and some in difficult situations. So we've done that for probably close to 20 years now, something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
15 at least. But
yeah.
And then there are other things that just come up that you get involved in one way or the other.
Agreed. And again, you're a humble guy, but there are a lot of things that I know you're always out there, you and your wife, helping when people need it. Meals on Wheels is great. That's one piece I miss from, during my years at the hospital, all of the executive team members, we were on the delivery, cycle. And, so I was doing it every few weeks, and you're right. It's just the need that's out there. It's immense, and just, you're doing good by bringing people food, but it just does something for you inside to be able to help others. So I do miss that. Well, again, thanks for spending time in that lane, because the community needs folks like you and Mary Jean to continue doing those things. So now I want to shift to another lane, because I know you spend a lot of time around the fitness lane, right? So gosh, we could probably talk for an hour just about your running prowess, your resume from a running standpoint, but your physical being, your physical health, your mental health, and your career and how it's transitioned. I want to kind of talk about that, so give the audience a little bit of history of how long you've been in fitness, specifically running, and then what you do today and how much time y'all spend in that lane, whether it be hiking, biking, running, walking, whatever else.
Well, once I got out of college, out of law school, and started going to work, your schedule gets kind of tied down so that you don't have a lot, the free time tends to disappear after a while. And I've always tried to stay active, and even in college we had the intramural sports, and so that was all fun. But as you got out, it was, I played some city league softball and flag football, that kind of stuff. But you began to have less time, or I started looking for something that would be, better on the fitness and a little more efficient, and somehow or another stumbled into running. And that was probably first year of doing some much serious running was 1983, and then 84 was probably my first full year. And those early years of running are probably some of the best things you'll ever experience. They eventually become too distant, and the body starts breaking down too often. It doesn't, so there's only so long that you keep going up and up. And but those were good days, and I've just kept at it since then. And I enjoy the travel part of it. I don't enjoy the slowing down, but you learn to to do what you can do. I was diagnosed in 2012, let's see, 9 years ago, almost 10 years ago, with Parkinson's disease. So that's been a challenge on the running, but it's let me get by with staying at it. So it just takes longer sometimes to get from one place to another.
Right. I think the most recent race we ran together was the Wakulla Springs, I think, the 5. Yep. I think that's the last time I saw you. But I mean, again, I've been fortunate to be around you since joining the club. I think I joined in 2008, 2009. And you've always been, one of those that I aspired to say, hey, I want to run like that when you get a few years down the road, look at, he's maintaining, when you say slowing it down, you didn't really slow down a whole lot until until the recent years. And again, you being a humble guy, for our audience, just to give them an idea, your PR on a marathon lifetime PR is what?
Just under 244.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's only, what's that, 625 pace, something like that?
620, somewhere in there.
620. Yeah, that's pretty fast. What about 5K? What's your PR, lifetime PR on a 5K?
I ran a 1640.
Okay. How about 1 mile?
I ran a 458, like 14. One time I broke 5 minutes.
That's right.
That was fun.
Yeah. That's hard to do. I've tried a couple times in my late 40s, and I could only get to like 507. And It's painful, David. It's
I
painful.
wish I'd started earlier on the mile trying to do it, but yeah, it's a hard race, and funny
So
watch people try to do it and do it really well.
yeah, the so today, you know, and again, thank you for sharing about your diagnosis with Parkinson's, and you know, still maintaining an activity level, right, and still being
Yes.
out there and racing and running. Tell me a little bit, because I'm not a physician at all, but how has your running and being active, how has that impacted your diagnosis over the last few years? Has it helped in some way or not, you know?
Parkinson's is one of those things that's in large part still mystery. Everybody who gets it has their own special, unique set of challenges, I think. But one thing you'll hear consistently from doctors is stay active, be active, and don't give in to it. You know, make Parky fight for every bit that he gets, and so it certainly impacts you in a lot of ways. But I do think being able to continue to run and push, not, you know, I really do try to run hard, are things that help either avoid the you know, the side effects from becoming worse or slow down their progression. So so I think the two go together well.
And so today you running 5 days a week, 7 days a week?
I try to run 6. I try to take one day a week off, and I'm pretty consistent with staying with 6. So I'm not running as many miles as I once did. You know, of course, well, in the peak of number of miles, I used to, probably the most I've ever done was 70 in a week, and then on a consistent basis, probably, you know, 60 to 65 for a while during the days when I ran the PRs and things. So now I'm probably running 30 to 40. So I'm thinking maybe I'd like to get it up to 45 to 50 again.
Yeah.
If
I
the
mean,
body will let me.
but that's still a good, you know, that's still a good week. I mean, that's still an above average week for most. And, you know, again, I admire your strength, and, you know, you are an inspiration for a lot of us and in the running community, because knowing, you know, the challenges that you have, and you're out there, you know, when I want to doubt myself, oh, I can't do this. When you can look over and see David Yon, you can do it. You know, you can do it. I can do it. So thanks for being an inspiration to us, a lot of us in the running community. I appreciate it.
Thanks for those words. Thanks.
Yeah. So, all right. So let me transition to another lane, because again, you've got other things that take some of your time. I want to talk about hobbies or side hustles a little bit too, because I know you're a columnist. You're writing, right, for the local paper, and you publish different things, maybe other places. And then I want to also hear from you on the travel piece, because I know you like to travel, and there's planning around all of that, and you do it with a group of friends, or you just do it with Mary Jean. But talk a little bit about the column that you keep, how long you're doing it, how often you write, and those sorts of things.
The column has been a tremendous amount of fun. Gosh, again, it's one of those things I've been doing for probably 10 to 15 years. You know, should have gone back and tried to find that date, but it's more challenging. I think the Parkinson's makes it more challenging because it's just hard to bring everything in for a landing sometimes. But I enjoy it, and the writing and the traveling sometimes go together too. That's always the time when it's maybe the most fun to write, because you're just telling the story of what you're doing, and you know, when you're somewhere you haven't been before, or maybe you've been before, but it just seems very different. And one of those areas of travel has been the Olympics. So as I've written a couple times about, I first went to the first live Olympics in Atlanta, and you know, it's just one of those things where you say, all right, I'm going to order ticket to all the track and field. They had these packets, and they had two sets, and I said, well, I'm going to order the one that gets you the most, and figure maybe people won't want to order tickets, and there'll be plenty of them left over. And somehow or another that happened. So I had a ticket to every track and field event, and had the ability to escape for the 10 days that it went on, and had a friend in Atlanta that I could stay at his house and then hop on the MARTA and go down to the stadium every day. And I just, and Mary Jean came up for parts of it, and she couldn't stay during the whole week, but I'd get there at like 7 in the morning for the first event, or 7:30. As you go through, that gets later and later. So, you get through the preliminary rounds, and it was just, I just got hooked for, well, still hooked on it. So we had tickets to go to Tokyo, and that obviously didn't come through because of COVID and all, but yeah, that's been a big part of what we do. So, but anyway, the writing is I just try to, it's a little different in that I'm not just simply trying to say so-and-so won this race or this race, but to try to paint a picture about how things come to be, or what might matter more, or a little more depth about somebody. So that's been fun. I've gotten pretty much free reign to write it anyway I want. Democrats been good to me.
Yeah. Oh, you deserve that. And so one of the articles, now this was years ago, when I first started running, like from running to training, or I'll say jogging, running, training. And you had put in an article about the myth of knee surgery or knee problems or something.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I think so. Arthritis and knee, yeah.
Because again, when I started getting into it, my friends are like, oh, you shouldn't be running, it's bad for your knees. And I was like, and then I read your article, and I was like, okay, see, it is a myth. It's not, I mean, what's bad for you is poor form and the wrong shoes, right? I mean, that's what causes a lot of pain. And I tell people, whoever I talk to, if they want to get into running, I say, before you go out and start running, do a couple things. One, go get your gait examined, how you're running, so and then proper running form. Google the proper running form, watch a video so you kind of understand what that looks like and feels like, and get the right shoe. I mean, do those things before you try to go out and run, for the first time, because shin splints and all those happen.
Yeah. Well, that, and trying to convince people not to increase their miles too fast, to take it easy.
Right. Work their way into it.
Yeah.
So Olympics, how many Olympics then have you gone to?
We went to Atlanta, and then Australia, Sydney. We didn't go to Athens, which I regret now, but we went to Rio. We went to Beijing, and which one am I forgetting? London, London.
So in all of those, then I got to ask, what is your favorite, most memorable moment from a track and field perspective at the Olympics? What do you go to right away?
It's hard to say. Usain Bolt set his records; those were pretty special. London had Mo Farah and Galen Rupp, in the 10,000 meter race. Breda Denny Willis, one of our Tallahassee residents at the time, was down in Sydney and ran for Ireland. So that was pretty special. Michael Johnson running his record in Atlanta was pretty amazing. There's just been, it's hard to pick. The London games were so well organized. They get a big plus for that, and there's a lot to see. All the places been a lot to see. Beijing was so unique because that was a better time for China than now. I think that's kind of the peak of the government there letting people be themselves, and since then it's gone down, but we felt real comfortable traveling around China then, and the Olympics there were pretty special.
Nice. Yeah, you just took me on a journey with you mentioning all of those things. And yeah, so thank you. That must have been awesome to be there. So my last kind of lane that I want to talk about before I get to the, your advice on work and life integration, your family. Now, you and Mary Jean been married since, was it 80s, right? Late 80s?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the family time these days.
Mary Jean is retired, although she doesn't like to use that word. But and since I'm working from home, we're both here most of the time. We never had any kids. We've got 4 cats that try to take their place as kids. I won't say pretend. But we've had as many as 6. So I've got nieces and nephews around too that we spend time with from time to time.
Yeah, I meant because you had enough brothers and sisters, right? So your Uncle David, right? Well, and again, I don't know if your cats came from the local, places here in Tallahassee, but that's certainly we're lovers here in our family of pets. More dogs. We're more on the dog side than the cat side. Apparently, I have an allergy issue with that, so I try to stay away from the cats.
I understand that.
So David, let me get to, and again, you've shared quite a bit, and I've learned a lot more about you than I ever did before. And I'm sure our audience appreciates what you've shared. And as I mentioned, I could probably talk to you for another hour just about running alone, but we won't do that here today. But suffice to say, congratulations on your professional accomplishments, your personal accomplishments as well. And thanks for all that you do for our community. Being that you're active on so many lanes, though, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share, if I were listening to this podcast and I was struggling with work-life integration, all these different lanes, how do I fit in the time? Where do I, what are some of those tips and suggestions that have worked for you that others can try out, knowing that there's no real formula, right? It's kind of an art. And maybe some of them will work and not all of them. That's fine. But the point here is to take someone like you and put them in front of others to say, try these things. These work for me. So what would they be, David? What do you want to share?
Set priorities. I mean, that's accept the fact that you can't do everything you want to do. There's only 24 hours in the day. And I always like to say you can borrow a few from the next day, but you got to give it right back. So it doesn't get you a whole lot in that regard. I've been fortunate to have a place to work where there's always been that flexibility. I mean, lawyers are notorious. Well, not all law firms, but a lot of law firms are notorious about working on the road or being different places. So that's another area of travel has been work, so that's most of that would be stateside. It wouldn't be international travel, but having a place to work that allows for that flexibility is important. And more and more people, I think that's become interesting as you watch the impact of the coronavirus, that people who have been away from their work office are now thinking, well, it's not such a bad thing to keep this going as long as possible. But that helps as well. When I was, before I got married, vacations always seemed to disappear. You'd shot one, but you didn't have anybody else that you had to rely on or account for. So pretty soon you look up and the whole year's gone by, you haven't taken a day off, and you're going, oh gosh, well, I got to do better next year. Well, that's one of the many good things about my marriage. That's one of the best things is there's 2 of us now. And so we're both dedicated to keeping that time off and doing the kind of travel that we like to do. So that's another part of it. And sometimes we travel alone. We also like to travel with a group of friends, and that's helps too, because you get something scheduled. And so just thinking about it and being focused on it. I remember once when we were recruiting a lawyer for a law firm, one of the senior lawyer who's operating as president said, well, I've never missed one of my kids' events, major events, never had to miss one because of work. And that's phenomenal when you think about it, to be able to say that. But that shows what the priorities were, and that's one of the ways you strike that balance.
I hear you. Thank you. And just to regurgitate a little bit. So the first, you mentioned prioritization. I mean, how important that is, but I love the fact you said, but you got to understand, you probably can't do everything you want to do. I mean, there comes to a point where there's time in the day, but prioritizing will help. And then in your work life, hopefully having a relationship, an employer that allows some flexibility, adaptability for you to then prioritize and include some life stuff and work stuff. Because, let's be honest, there are some employers of choice and there are some that aren't, right? Sure. And that's just, not every employer appreciates wellness and how important it is, and honestly, I think those are the employers that are missing out on it, because the more well your employees are, the more they'll do for you. I mean, it's just a fact.
Yeah, and there's not an inexhaustible supply of energy in your employees, so you the more you can do things like that for them, and the better I think the business runs, because your employees are going to be sharper. They're, like you say, they're going to be healthier. They're going to be more involved. So,
agreed. Yeah, and then you talked about planning from a perspective of dedicating the time for it. Because you're married now. There's two of you committed to that plan, and so much of, I think, of this work-life integration comes down to planning. Like, you're dedicating and focusing and being purposeful. You talked about focusing on that and making sure you calendar it, and you go on those trips and you take your vacations, because it is easy. Once the wheel starts turning, next thing you know, it's July or August, September, and you're like, wait, did I go anywhere this year?
I'm amazed when I watch friends who, and especially with the younger kids, how many places they have to have their kids, during the course of a week. It's crazy. No one just does one sport, it's
right.
3 or 4, and but anyway, they seem to manage it somehow. But boy, it's gotta be tough.
Well, that's where, I mean, when we agreed upon, having kids years ago, how active do we want them to be? And we recently decided not to do travel baseball for our oldest, because, as you may be aware, hearing through friends or other things, that travel baseball stuff is, it's every weekend, every other weekend, and it's we're just not ready for that. But anyway, so thank you for your advice, and I'm sure the audience, when they hear it, they're going to grab a hold of a couple of those things. And I will repeat one quote you said earlier about running, for those that are looking to do it, how you stumbled into running. I mean, just to hear you say stumble into running, because again, you don't ever want to stumble while you're running. But we probably all have, right?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah, we have. But yeah, David, I hope to see you soon at a local race, or I definitely will see you at Turkey Trot this year. But I valued your time, and for our audience, look for this episode coming up soon on Run.Life.Today.org. We appreciate the time today, and we'll see you in our next episode. Remember, do what you can to run more of life, and let life run you. See you later, David. Take care, buddy.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.